All right, welcome to lesson 7.4b. For this, we are going to slide to the back side of your worksheet. So it should say multiplying both equations at the top. I'm going to zoom in on that for you. Let's just look at what's going on in this example. So this says to eliminate one variable when adding or subtracting equations, you may need to multiply both equations. So here's what we're starting with. We're starting with these two equations. Do you see any numbers in front of the letters that match up? We have 2 and 7, and then we have 9 and 12. Those don't match up nice like they did on all our other examples. Also, can we do 2 times a number to get 7? Can we do 2 times a number to get 7? Not really. Okay. Similar, can we do 9 times a number to get 12? Not a nice one. Okay, there's not a nice number that you can multiply by. So instead, we're going to multiply both equations. In this example, they chose to multiply by 4 and 3. And here's why. If they did 9 times 4, they got 36. If they did 12 times 3, they also got 36. So in that example, they were able to get 36 for the y's. The x's they also had to multiply, though, also. They did 2 times 4 to get 8. They did 7 times 3 to get 21. And then they had to multiply the constants, 1 times 4 and 23 times 3. So in this example, they got the y's to have the same number in front. That way they could cancel those out. Let's look at a few examples where we could do either one, and I'm going to show you an even easier method to know what to multiply by. Let's zoom in on example A. All right, example A starts out with these two equations, and you can't multiply 3 to get 4. You can't multiply 2 to get 5 very nicely. So here's the trick. We're going to multiply the first equation by 3. Notice 3 happens to be the number next to x in the second equation. We're going to multiply the second equation by 4, which happens to be the number next to x in the first equation. So one trick you can use, and I recommend doing this, is if you can't multiply one equation, you have to multiply both. Do the first equation times the number next to x in the second, for example, 3. And then do the second equation times the number next to x in the first, which is 4. So let's look at what happens. When we multiply each number by 3 in the first one, 4 times 3 is 12, 15 times 3 is 15, 35 times 3 is 105. It's a big number, but it's what we want. If we do times 4 for the second one, negative 3 times 4 is negative 12, 2 times 4 is 8, negative 9 times 4 is negative 36. So we get those new numbers for our equations. Notice I still have everything lined up. When we go to add those equations together, let's look at what happens. Because I have 12 and negative 12, I'm going to add those to get 0x. So see, I put a plus sign here. I'm going to add 15 and 8 to get 23. I'm going to add 105 and negative 36 to get 69. Okay, so our last step to get y by itself is we're going to divide by 23. Divide both sides. We get y equals 3. Now we have to go back to here. Go back to our first equation, 4x plus 5y equals 35. I plugged in our 3 because that's what we got for our y number. 5 times 3 is 15. When we subtract 15 on both sides, we get 20. And then when we divide by 4, we get 5. So here's our final answer. Our x number goes first, and then our y number, 5, 3. So in this example, we multiplied both equations. Let's look at another one. Take a look at example B. Okay. The reason we have to multiply both equations is I can't do 3 times a number to get 5, and I can't do 7 times a number to get 9. It doesn't work very nice. So I'm going to multiply the first equation by the number that's next to x in the second. So here's times 5, because 5 is next to x in our second one right here. I'm going to multiply the second equation by 3. It happens to be the number next to x in the first one. When we do that, we will get 15 for both x terms for both equations. That's why we do that. Now, 15 and 15, they have the same sign, so we're going to subtract. So when we go to subtract each column, we get 0x, we get negative 8y, because we do negative 35 minus negative 27, because they both have these negative signs right here. And we're subtracting because that's what I put on the outside of my equations there. So we get negative 8y equals 40. Now we divide by negative 8. So we get negative 5. So our y number is negative 5. We're not done yet. That's only part of our answer down here. We have to go back up and plug it into the first equation. 3x minus 7 times negative 5 equals 5. So when I do this math, negative 7 and 5, or negative 7 and negative 5 make positive 35. If I subtract that on both sides, I get 30. Whoops, that should be negative 30. I get negative 30 if I subtract 5. And when I divide by 3, I get negative 10. That is our correct answer. Negative 10 is correct. So the biggest thing I want you guys to see here is that we need to multiply both equations, and we're going to multiply one of them by the number from the second, and then the first one by the second one by the number from the first. So see how we have 5 and 5, 3 and 3, 5 and 5 in red, 3 and 3 in green. That's the pattern that I want you to pick up on. There are 2 more examples that I would like you to look through, and make sure you copy those down. What I'm going to highlight for you is what we multiplied by. For this first problem, for letter C, we're multiplied the first equation by negative 3, because there's a 3 here, or sorry, by positive 3. And we multiply the second equation by 2, because of this 2 right here. The process after that should be familiar for you. Go into example D, we multiplied the first equation by 5, because there's a 5 right here. We multiplied the second equation by 4, because there's the 4 right here. So we get 20x for both of those equations. Back to that other example, we got negative 6 for both, or sorry, we got negative 6 and 6, so we got the same number. So that matched up as well. So that is the main skill for this lesson, multiplying both equations. Thank you for listening.